What the biggest gaps are and what we're seeing the most with companies right now is that the majority of partners that we work with, they have a skills gap. 87% of companies right now in America, according to the latest SHRM study, says that they have a skills gap in their company or in right now. And that is part of our legacy here. I was a Marine Corps recruiter for 8 years. Everybody in college, every guidance counselor was saying, kids, go to college. The military is for dumb people. Going to the workforce is your last resort. You should go to college. Now we have these kids getting out of college on their phones that don't want to go out there and turn wrenches, and we're wondering why we can't have vehicles online and everything else. We don't have a skills shortage in the military. We invest billions of dollars each year to make sure that we don't have planes and helicopters and everything else that we do for operational tempo up. So our technical savviness is key. We also have those skills. They're on there. Even myself, I have supply and logistics skills, sales skills, communication skills. I went to advanced leadership academies. Even your baseline veteran who's been through 4 years of service only has been through advanced leadership skill training and been in real world scenarios where they're in charge of people's lives, safety, millions of dollars of equipment. And sometimes the way the world turns rests on the shoulders of that one kid who joined the Marine Corps or whatever when they were 18. So I really challenge companies to relieve your stereotypes, think about what you need to have, what are nice to haves, and then get down to actually mapping those jobs out to open up the doors for non-traditional talent like veterans or people with disabilities, people of color, women. Let's make our organizations the cornucopia that they should be.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of our All Innovation, the AI podcast. I'm incredibly excited to have my co-host here, Dante McLean, and we're going to be talking to the founder and CEO of Buffer Springs today. Rob, welcome to the show, man. Really excited for you to be here.
Keenan, Dante, thank you so much for having me on. Really excited about this and leading up to the show. So thanks for the time today.
Absolutely, man. We're going to really dive into kind of your history, 14-year veteran of the Marine Corps. We're going to talk about the startup that you're founding here in Buffer Springs. We're going to talk about the challenge that you're overcoming, but also the mindset that kind of comes along with that, because I really know that you're shaking stuff up and you're really helping a lot of individuals who are coming out of the veteran space really get landed back into our business community. And I really want to kind of dive into the mindset of everything that comes along with that. So once again, thanks for being on the show. Dante, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, Rob. Let's start off with just your background and your history. I'd love to kind of catch the audience up on what Buffer Springs is and a little bit about your veteran background as well.
Absolutely. So to make a long story short, literally a long story, I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, one of the poorest zip codes in the U.S. So I was a street kid, didn't have many resources, opportunities growing up. The Marine Corps was my way out of that place that I was in. So when I was 18, fresh out of high school, enlisted into the Marine Corps, I was a knucklehead kid. So I came in an open contract. The Marine Corps picked my job for me because I made mistakes leading up to that didn't allow me to pick my own job. But found my career, found a calling in it, and first got into supply and logistics. Then I moved over to nuclear, biological, chemical warfare, did a deployment to Iraq, had a really cool experience doing that. I know you don't hear that a lot, but it helped to shape and mold me to who I am. And I came back and I ended up getting flagged for Marine Corps recruiting duty. And that's where I found my passion, my calling in helping individuals connect to opportunities, find experiences through the military to do that, as well as change people's lives like myself that were coming from other environments that they weren't able to grow in. So in that, I found my calling in sales and really became a true student of the game, learning how to communicate better at the corporate level, learning everything that I possibly could, and then really finding my calling in that. And then after about 8 years working in that capacity, decided to come out to the civilian sector. And while I was doing that, that's what was really the genesis of Buffer Springs, is how turbulent. And, I know we're no parental advisory or anything on here, right?
Let it fly, man.
I got my ass kicked by transition, and I didn't think that I was going to do that. I was smart. I could communicate. I was in sales and stuff, and I was in a civilian. I wasn't coming out of a mud puddle or a helicopter. I was in local communities, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And I saw all these flags waving and people that wanted to help us and hug us. I'm like, it's going to be a no-brainer. I'll just find a job, find it easily. And I didn't. And the veteran ecosystem, that's really what prompted this, is when I was finding these other opportunities or things that were out there. Have you ever seen the footage of downtown North Korea where you have stores and shops on the first two streets, and then you go back and it's cardboard cutouts and then there's nothing? That's what the veteran space was to me. There were some people that would work with me, but the rest of them were cardboard cutouts, a website that had nothing. And after I walked a few blocks down, I was in the middle of no man's land, of burnout, communist state or whatever. And as I was going through that, I kept asking myself, what is my problem? Why can't I get a job? What is my problem? But I realized it's not my problem. It's the problem of my people and not being able to translate our skills or experiences into our civilian crosswalks. So I decided at that point, I'm going to make it my problem. Nobody else owns this. Nobody else has taken ownership of it. As a Marine, one of the most important things that I learned early on was to leave places better than we found them. And when I came out here, this place was jacked up. And now I've made it my life's work to get this place back on track, whether it's the last thing I do in this world or not. So,
I mean, what an amazing mission, man. The one thing that I really gravitated towards in our last conversation was you were talking about the unemployment rate. Across the United States, you use the stat of like 2%. In the veteran sector, we're talking about 60+%. So why do people have such a fucked up attitude when it comes to putting veterans inside businesses, or what is the misconception? Because before you said to us, not every veteran was going into, guns blazing, Rambo style into a war scenario. There's a lot of other skill sets that we develop. So why don't we kind of have the ability to place these people properly when we get back into society?
There's a lot to peel back on that onion. And unfortunately, we only have an hour today. Some of the things that I'll say is that the way that we are as a society and as a culture now is different than what we think that we are. Back when all of these veteran initiatives and everything came through, we were World War II America. Rosie the Riveter was here rooting people on. 50% of our nation served in the military. The other 50% who didn't serve were the child or the husband or a wife of a veteran, or you lived next door and it was part of our culture. Right now, 1% of our nation serves in the military. And that's dangerous in itself with a growing population and the world getting as fucked up as it is right now. But that's another story. So 1% serves. That means the other 99% don't have that lived experience. And the other 99% have less of a chance of connecting with that 1% of us that is serving. So all the knowledge that they have is secondhand. Whether you saw a commercial with Sarah McLachlan, Arms of an Angel playing, and these poor vets need your help and hugs, and $20 can save a life. It's that bullshit. You buy into it that veterans are broken or wounded animals or some critters that need mending. The other one is, like what we see in Hollywood. Top Gun, people blowing shit up, Rambo going in there and taking on the whole Iraqi army by himself and walking out, with an ice cream cone at the end of the movie. Like, it's none of that is true of the military. We have people doing every job that you do in the civilian world. It just may be called something different, or we wear a different uniform when we're doing that. So the bigger issue that I see, to make a long story short, is that many people see veterans in that context from what they've seen as either being overqualified or underqualified, which are both dangerous. But we have to recognize the vast array and depth and breadth of skills and experience that these individuals bring and what that can be as a value point. So the big issue that I see is that most veteran initiatives are based off of an old premise that we're World War II America and we're all back here doing it nobody cares anymore. We have family members that don't talk to each other because of who they voted for in the last election. Patriotism is not going to drive your veteran initiative. Charity isn't either. We don't want your charity. We don't want your hugs. I have a lot of dynamic work that I want to do. And if you don't want to hire me at your company to do that, which you proved when I was transitioning out, I'm going to come out here and build an empire myself, and we're going to change the game. So that's the mentality of our veterans. We want to work. We want to build. We want to do amazing things. We just need you to understand that we want to do that and the value that we bring to the table.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you talked a little bit about the economy, right? So some people see veterans as these absolute heroes, and other people see them as these wounded soldiers, and they need to be fixed or catered to in a certain way. How do you think these stereotypes are overcome by our society? I know that you're doing a lot of great work at Buffer Springs, but how do we overcome some of these stereotypes that are ingrained within our society?
The way that we overcome that is by knowledge and wisdom and understanding and actually taking the time. Diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and I know you guys hit on this stuff all the time. They're great. They're a buzzword. They're a platitude if you're not taking action and actually doing the things that make sense there. So diversity means nothing without equality and actually leveling the playing field and giving everyone equal opportunities, or else it's just another flag that we're putting on our website that doesn't mean shit at the end of the day. So where those are the big emphasis on, the one thing I will say is, if your organization has the opportunity to hire for character and train for skill, look into our people, look into veterans and military spouses and the resilience of our people. We've been able to do our job at high calibers, sometimes while being shot at. Think of what we can do in your organization with a clear mission and the right tools and people to do it. So
One of the things that I feel like is a real great opportunity for us to dive into is you said something incredibly powerful in our last conversation. First of all, you said, I'm looking for partnerships, not transactional relationships. And you also said that we're not going to work with shitty people. So let's kind of talk about where that emphasis comes from and why are you so focused, especially in kind of like a startup mentality, looking for partnerships instead of transactional relationships with so much, which seem to be so much easier to gather, if that makes sense.
So I'm doing this differently this time. So even though we are a startup, I founded the company back in 2021. We're about to hit our 3-year anniversary. So we are a toddler as a company. However, I am not a toddler as an individual and experience in this space. So I have 8 years of sales, manpower, talent acquisition, recruitment experience in the military. So I know how to serve in the military. I know how the military recruits. I also know how people transition from that. So I have that lived expertise of doing that for 14 years of my life. After that, I've spent the past 12 years working with hundreds of companies, thousands of veterans, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of conversations of what works, what doesn't work, and what is real and what is not. And if we take a proactive approach and actually look at the results and the impact of what we're trying to do, let's not wave that flag. The hero and victim thing that we just talked about, it's damaging to companies because nobody needs heroes. We're not hiring heroes, and that there's no job description for that. Nobody needs victims either. And as veterans, it's dangerous for us because while we're in, as I was a Marine, I was told the entire time I was in the Marine Corps that we are the most powerful creature to ever walk the face of the earth. That's what Marines are told in our overinflated egos, and that's where some of that comes from. But then when we get out, I have people telling me that you're broken. You're not this creature that you were. And if we buy into that as veterans, if we believe we're a hero or we believe we're a victim, then it becomes our reality, but it's damaging, and we're not going to get a job as a hero or a victim. We're going to get a job by using our experience, translating our skills, and talking about the value that we bring to an organization and why we're the next person to kick ass in that role and explain that. So those are the breakdowns there of just understanding. Take the time. You want to get to know veterans and hire veterans? Talk to a vet. You want to hire people with disabilities? Talk to somebody with a disability to see how they cooperate in the workforce. It's not intrusive. We want these conversations to happen. Let's start them, because sometimes those underrepresented groups aren't the ones to stand up and say, hey, this is fucked up. We need to change it. Now, I'm different than that because I'm saying this is fucked up and we need to change it. But the majority of us are not doing that. And even I bit my tongue for the last 10 years working under somebody else's umbrella where I can't say everything that I want to say, but now filters off. Like, we got shit to do.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that you said that really stood out to me was we're so capable, we're used to getting shot at. And that reminded me a story of my brother-in-law, so my wife's brother. He's been in the military for over a decade. He served multiple tours all across, all the toughest places, and he did some private contracting after that. And after all of that, he became a nurse, and a really qualified nurse. He's absolutely brilliant. And his director wanted to write him up one day because there was like alarms going off in the hospital, and she was like, you were just so calm. Like, I don't understand. Like, you didn't panic. Like, you were so calm. And he was like, yeah, I've been to fucking war. It's like your little alarm bells like don't faze me. And so I love that perspective. One of the things I want to talk to you. Go ahead.
One caveat to that point. So that can be seen as a value or as as something that will deter somebody from that. So seeing that somebody's had combat experience, if I don't understand that, I'm going to think that that person has issues and things like that that are going to prevent them from working. If I do understand that, I know that this person, I can run them through the ringer, and this is going to be a spring day for them compared to what they've done. So it's how the perception is. The perception becomes reality in the eyes of that viewer. There's an old story of two Nike sales reps, and they both go to a deserted island. I'm sure you guys have heard the story. If not, I'll tell it again real quickly. They both go to a deserted island, and native people, everything else on there. One guy calls from one side of the island back to headquarters and says, you guys aren't going to fucking believe this. None of the people here wear shoes. There's nothing for me here. I'm out of here. The other guy calls from the other side of the island and goes, you're never going to fucking believe this. None of these people have shoes. I'm going to make a killing in here, and feel free to write me $1 million check. So it's all perception at the end of the day.
100%. One of the things I want to talk about it, because I love your story so much, going from 0 clients to 1. Can you tell us a little bit about that story, some of the challenges? I remember in our previous conversation, you said you were really struggling and you had a really big opportunity in your hand, and you decided to take, the road less traveled, right? The path of, honor and valor. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about that story?
So the way that Buffer Springs came about, my last employer, I don't remember how the last conversation went, but I was either fired or I quit at that moment. Regardless of how it went down, I didn't have a job at the end of it. So I could either go back into the tailspin of going out there and trying to tell civilians what I do and how I can add value to their organization. Even as a sales guy, I brought in hundreds of millions of dollars of sales over the past 12 years that I'm doing this. But if I apply to a job, I'm probably not going to get it because I'm a non-traditional candidate and they haven't taken the time to learn it. So what I decided to do then, and part of the reason why I built the company is because I don't want to write a resume. I didn't want to go in job applications. So I was like, you know what? I know enough to be dangerous now. I've compiled all my thoughts, what I have from this conversation, and I realized that I was ready. When I got out in 2012, I saw this fucked up space and wanted to take it on then. But I wasn't equipped for what I needed to do. This was a heavyweight fight, and if I would have gotten in the ring then, I would have got the shit kicked out of me. Now I've been training, I've been boxing, I've been sparring with people 3 times my size, and now we're ready to take this on. So I had the confidence to go out there and attack the market. I also knew my ideal customer profile from having hundreds of conversations and clients of who we wanted to work with and who we didn't. So when I was laying down after that awkward conversation, I laid down my core values, and I was a little pissed off when I did it, but core values don't change once you lay them down. They are concrete. I can't move them. One of the first things I put down there is that we don't work with organizations that charge veterans a cent, and we will never charge veterans a cent for any of our services. That is concrete. That will never go away. The second one on there, which was actually the first at the time because I was pissed off, but now it's number 2 on there, is that we don't do things with or for shitty people. And in the past, I've done work that I didn't want to do. I've got clients to job fairs to hire veterans when I knew there wasn't a good job or a good educational benefit at the end of it, but I was part of that system and part of the broken wire in that. So now we hand select the companies that we work with. If they're not doing it for the right reasons or their core values do not align with ours, they have to want to take action. This isn't patriotism. It isn't charity. We're not trying to make another veteran-friendly company. We don't want friends. We're trying to make military effective organizations that are compliant and competitive and hire and retain and engage veterans. And then veterans are a power center within there that are bringing in more vets. We have the strongest military on the planet because of our people. How would you like to meet some of those amazing people and then bring in more of them? This is the formula to it. So if companies are not bought into that and looking at the result and they just want to wave a flag or high five a vet, we're not your partner. If you want to make impactful change, that's what we're looking for. So I think I gave myself a year of runway. I bootstrapped the business. I'm still bootstrapping it now. We've been approached by PE, outside money. We don't want it. I need to get my ass kicked doing this on my own before I spend daddy's money or anything else out there in the field. And I've been with PE, VC-backed firms and everything else in the past, and we lost our soul in that process. We didn't do what we wanted to do anymore. We did what the board wanted us to do. So I don't want to do that. I need to go out there and get my ass kicked doing this by myself. But with the clients, this is probably 6 to 8 months into the business. I had several conversations. We have a pretty detailed sales cycle here in the work that we do. But by the end, I was at the senior level of leadership with talent acquisition, HR, affirmative action, and everybody talking about what we do, because we are a training and consulting firm in a sense where we help to not just do prescription without diagnostic, but find out what's going on with your company. No 2 companies are the same, neither are no 2 veterans. So we need to go in there and figure out what that patient's chart is before we make recommendations or prescriptions, or else it's malpractice on our part. So as we were going through that process, one of their senior VPs of talent acquisition goes, "That's all great what you guys do and the fluff and everything else. I can see that. But at the end of the day, we just want you to stack bodies. Can you do that or not?" And I paused. I looked at my bank account right before that call, and I had $800 left in my runway. The proposal was for around $300,000. And I said, you know what? I could have just said, yep, we stack bodies. We'll do it. Yep. And I thought back and I thought about what I put on my marker board. This isn't the work we want to do. I'm going to get veterans into a commission-only sales role with this company, and they're going to come back to me in 6 months and say, what the fuck, dude? Why did you send me there? If they want to find that job, they can find it on their own. So I declined that. And then I hung up and I said, holy shit, I think I just signed the death warrant of my company. But because we're doing the right things and talking to the right people, literally 2 days later, big contract hit, and we signed an ideal client for us, and we're doing fantastic work. From there, there's an ancient Navajo word that I heard out there that I think is a beautiful word. And I used to have fear of other people's opinions or biting my tongue and all that, but from this point on, we don't have to do that. So that beautiful Native American word that I heard, and I'm not sure of the origins of it, is fuck them. So now I'm just speaking our truth. I've spoke at conferences and I've got people responding back and saying, Rob seems militant. Rob seems angry. I'm not at all. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about my people. And if we don't speak up, everybody else is just going to keep making assumptions that we're wounded, friendly, whatever bullshit is out there. We're incredible people that can do great things for your company, and we want to prove that. So everything's been working out. We haven't turned back. I still speak the way that I speak at conferences and everything else. If I offend you, you're not the right client for us anyway. If you don't like our approach, we're not right for you. But if you do and we resonate with you, then we can get together. I want to do work with people that I want to get a beer with, or that I trust and that I like, and I want to. We build relationships. We're looking to do really impactful work that integrates a lot of different people and changes lives. There's nothing transactional about that. We need to get to know you. We need to have that warm and fuzzy before we move forward. It's a relationship. You're not going to date somebody you hate or you think is an asshole.
Man, it's just like so inspiring to kind of hear. And when we hopped off our original call, me and Dante were sitting around and we were talking about you as a guest, and we were like, you know what? There's something about the authenticity that you come across with and your willingness to just show up with yourself and speak the truth that we have to be able to share your story. I want to be able to kind of dive a little bit deeper into when you turn down that $300,000 proposal and you have less than a G in the bank account. What does your mindset go to? Is it automatically into work mode? Do you lean into your support system? Because before we hopped on here, you talked about having 3 children. So what is your support system like? Because I know that when you're grinding 24/7, burning the candle from both sides, we have to have a hell of a support system in order for us to accomplish our goals. So what does yours look like?
So my support system was a very heavy investment up front. It took a wedding ring, several dates, me being on my best behavior for years. So my support mechanism in my rock is my wife. So as soon as I had that, my wife works from home as well. So I walked out of my office into hers and I said, hey, hon, I don't think we're going to be able to go out to dinner tonight like we planned. And this is what just happened. And she was like, good. Same Navajo word. Fuck them. There'll be somebody else. I believe in you. What you're doing is validated. And now the people that we talk to, when we have those conversations, there's an aha moment of, Rob, we're a federal contractor. Nobody else does this. You're going to help us be compliant and competitive and do great work. This is a no-brainer. When they see it, they know it. When they don't see it, then they don't know it. They're not right for us anyway. We are a niche within a niche. We don't need to work with or pack a job fair full of 500 companies and call that a win. If we work with 5 or 10 great clients and we make impact, and we serve our mission. Our mission is huge. You know, you have the Jim Collins BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals, you know, your Mount Everest thing. Ours is to eradicate, wipe out, completely kill off underemployment within the military connected community. Right now it's 61%. So if we got 5, 10 good clients working with us, good veterans and everybody else, we're just going to continue to build a mob and spread like a fucking virus and do this right, gradually, slowly, and surely, but doing it the right way. So
yeah, I love the mission. I wanted to talk a little bit about technology and emerging technology. That's a big focus sometimes on the podcast because we are called All Innovation. And so, what does innovation look like in the space regarding AI, and what do you think the future of AI looks like when it comes to hiring veterans in particular?
So AI, it's not going anywhere. It's scary to a lot of people. I come from a world where I've been in TA, you know, tech, everything else, you know, SaaS, everything else, all those technologies over the past decade plus. My last employer was actually selling an AI machine learning matching platform on there that the bugs are still being worked out on AI, let's see. And then as soon as you're behind the door, like we see all these cool things that we see on there, what I found out is that a lot of AI is actually IA. It's India assist. There's coders, developers, and people plugging shit into old school switchboards in there. And it's almost like Wizard of Oz. Like you're expecting all this grandiose shit. There's some old dude behind a shower curtain with a microphone somewhere. So it's making strides and everything else, black box, white box, and all that. But I think we need to understand it, but realizing that it's not going anywhere. And this is a tool. Just like anything else, people are afraid of guns. They should be afraid of AI because you can shoot yourself in the foot with both of them if you don't know what you're doing. Your social media stuff that you're putting out there that just looks like bullshit. You know, it all says like embark on a journey. We know that ChatGPT wrote that. Like, so Don't be lazy. Use the tool, but don't let the tool do your job for you in this. In emerging technology, we are making so many strides in talent acquisition, HR, and across the board. Like I've seen so many new emerging companies, and I keep my ear to the tracks on that. However, I have to do that outside of my industry because the veteran space is so antiquated in 2002 and behind on everything. All these novice concepts, and part of it is because of what I call the military circle jerk. So in LinkedIn, there's a group of probably like maybe 25 to 50 veterans that all just basically comment on each other's stuff in a vacuum, but nothing actually goes out there. And I don't want to be a part of that. I want to take action. I want to work with organizations, not be caught in the fluff or, all that that's out there. But there's no real innovation in our space, which opens up a door for us to go in there and innovate. So we're doing a ton of things on the background. We're investing a lot of sweat equity and capital into technology advancements for our people to get with the new world of work, because the things that are out there for veterans right now and the solution that's there for us is unfortunately actually the problem. And it's that North Korea shit that we need to actually build those streets out rather than having cardboard cutouts and thinking that that's cool for our veterans, because it's not.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think about is recently in my Instagram feed or my whatever feed recently, I've been seeing a lot of the NVIDIA CEO, and he was talking about, if you think that technology like AI is going away, you've got a big mistake in front of you. Why? Because it's not a threat to steal your job, because what's really going to happen is somebody who knows how to properly use AI is going to be the person who's going to come and steal your job. And so I think about kind of the element of curiosity, we need to think about how we can use these tools as accelerators to help us be more effective. And so when you kind of think about, I would say, innovation, it's really interesting to me to kind of go back to your comment about like the military circle jerk, if you will, being a 2002 legacy type of system. Because when we first got started in 2014, we were a telehealth company. One of the first opportunities that we went after here in the state of Nevada was going to the veteran hospital here, the VA, and pitched, hey guys, if we want to increase access to mental health resources for our veterans, we should be going directly to their device. You know what they told us? We just made a $1.6 billion investment into these large cart systems that stay inside of our facility. So now our veterans can drive three and a half hours to come here to our facility to see a doctor virtually. And I was like,
those things are broken all the time too. I go to the VA pretty frequently, and those kiosks are always broken. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, what are we doing here? It's like not the appropriate use of technology, but I want to approach kind of innovation from a different perspective. When you're engaging with these leaders from different organizations, what are the biggest challenges from a mindset perspective that you're having to break when it comes to positioning veterans inside their organizations?
One of the big things is people are keeping their cards close to their chest. So if I'm not real and I'm not authentic, you're not going to feel like you're able to do that either. And this is a very touchy subject, because if you answer questions the wrong way, maybe in front of me, maybe I'll be offended as a vet, and that's the worst that's going to happen. But if you're a federal contractor in the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs and VEVRA, and you're getting an audit and all that stuff, like the wrong answer to your question is a discrimination suit that you're getting sued for $5 million. So that's a big thing there, is that we tend to focus on where the pain is and letting them know that this isn't just a superfluous like extra duty and to hire vets or your patriotic duty as an American. Like, this is something that is a mandate and something you have to do, and you have to educate yourself and your people on. And then we go there and we build innovation around where there's actual pain. What the biggest gaps are, and what we're seeing the most with companies right now, is that the majority of partners that we work with, they have a skills gap. 87% of companies right now in America, according to the latest SHRM study, says that they have a skills gap in their company right now. And that is part of our legacy here. I was a Marine Corps recruiter for 8 years. Everybody in college, every guidance counselor was saying, kids, go to college. The military is for dumb people. Going to the workforce is your last resort. You should go to college. Now we have these kids getting out of college on their phones that don't want to go out there and turn wrenches. And we're wondering why we can't have vehicles online and everything else. We don't have a skills shortage in the military. We invest billions of dollars each year to make sure that we don't have planes and helicopters and everything else that we do for operational tempo up. So our technical savviness is key. The other thing that's out there right now, post-COVID, quiet quitting, baby boomers retiring, all the shit that happened in residual of COVID, right now, organizations have a leadership bench strength issue. You let go of your good people. We did RIFs, furloughs, let goes, freezes, whatever cute shit you called them, you fired people. So your legacy, your lexicon of leadership and experience there is gone for the most part. And you don't have those new people that just came in. They don't have that legacy or that background knowledge. So where are your future leaders coming from? Because They haven't been trained to be leaders in college. They haven't been trained to be leaders at your organization. In the military, we don't have a leadership gap. Literally, we have somebody be shot in combat and the next woman, next man is up. We have succession planning all the way down to the very bottom ranks. And that's part of our DNA. We're used to that atmosphere. So if you need skills, not your patriotism and all the other reasons, let's look at the business case. First of all, if you're a federal contractor, you work with the US government, you have to fucking hire veterans. You don't have a choice. You might as well do it well. If you have a leadership gap, look at vets. We train and build our leaders in some of the greatest leadership academies that our country has to provide. We also have those skills. They're on there. Even myself, like I have supply and logistics skills, sales skills, communication skills. I went to advanced leadership academies. Even your baseline veteran who's been through 4 years of service only has been through advanced leadership skill training and been in real world scenarios where they're in charge of people's lives, safety, millions of dollars of equipment. And sometimes the way the world turns rests on the shoulders of that one kid who joined the Marine Corps or whatever when they were 18. So I really challenge companies to relieve your stereotypes. Think about what you need to have, what are nice to haves, and then get down to actually mapping those jobs out to open up the doors for non-traditional talent like veterans or people with disabilities, people of color, women. Like, let's make our organizations the cornucopia that they should be. On the diversity tip as well, the reason I'm so passionate about this, when I look back in the Marine Corps, and I got out back in 2012, but the things that I remember the most are the people. Beautiful, wonderful people, got me through so many scenarios, everything else. They are my family, and I'm still with those people and indebted to them to this day. The other thing that I miss is the actual diversity. We have people from all across the world, different colors, cultures, creeds, languages, everything else, belief systems, people from down south, up north, Puerto Rico, wherever. But you come together, we're all green, we're all brothers, we're all sisters, we're all focused on the same mission. And that's when amazing shit happens and why we have the most powerful military on the planet here in America, because of the people who volunteer, stand up and go do the shit that needs to get done. And now they want to do shit at your company.
What do you feel, Rob, what do you feel is some practical advice? You touched on it a little bit, but if a company's listening right now and they're like, hey, we want to start hiring more veterans and we want to start an initiative, what are some practical steps that you would offer as guidance to kick off their journey?
This is like the Simon Sinek thing or whatever, but I would start with why. Why are you doing this? Is it because, we work with Pepsi? Are they doing it because Coke's doing it? No, they're doing it because they believe in veterans. They see the value. So ask yourself why. Does that, and when you say why, is it your why? Are you a military spouse or your dad was a vet and that's your why? Or is there a business case that's justified behind the why of doing this? Again, patriotism's great. Charity is a beautiful thing, but there's shitty reasons to hire people, and that's not a good fuel source to get your veteran vehicle where you want it to go. You have to look at that business case. So I would start with why. Then I would look at your team of who you have aligned in this. One person is not going to be able to do this. I used the Rambo analogy earlier. You're not going to find Rambo in your company to take everything on their back. You need to make sure it takes a village to raise a great program. You can't put another hat on a recruiter and say, Keenan, you're the veteran guy now. Go out and figure it out and go to job fairs. You're going to fucking fail. I've seen it happen a million times. What you need to do is actually align those teams to say, this is why we're doing this. And then ask HR, what's your why for doing this? TA, what's your why for doing this? Affirmative action and equal opportunity person who's getting rat fucked by the government, we know why you're doing this, so we don't need to ask that question. But you get all those people on there, you hear the pain points, the viewpoints, and everything else, and talk through those things, and then come up with a consensus that you need skills, you need leaders, you need to keep the government out of your hair. We can do that all if we concentrate our initiatives and work together collectively. If you try to do it alone, it's going to fail. You need everybody in there doing their part and lifting up certain places. Everyone has a seat on the bus. The driver can't be in the back of the bus. You need to drive the fucking thing. So it's all about who's doing what and holding people accountable. Have metrics, have goals. If your OFCCP benchmark right now, it's 5.2%. So look at your veteran numbers. If you're not at 5.2%, you know where to start. You're at 2%, at least you know, but know where you're at and know where you're going and why you're trying to get there, and set realistic goals for yourself. I see a lot of flag waving things for CEOs, especially during the Obama administration, the 100,000 jobs mission and all that. Saw so many CEOs, and this is when I was looking for a job. I'm like, wow, I want to work there. So I applied. Nothing. Crickets. They weren't really hiring veterans. They just talked about it. Mm-hmm. But they get on there and they bang their chest and say, we're going to hire 1 million veterans in Iowa. There's not 1 million veterans in Iowa. that are looking for jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like, so set realistic expectations. We're going to hire 5 veterans into this specific role that we've already mapped out, and know that Marine Corps avionics technicians are going to kick ass in this job. Not, let's bring in a token veteran and see where they go. Doesn't work.
I'm really interested in, you said something in there that I really want to kind of take a little bit of a personal dive into, is the idea of accountability. So especially in the entrepreneurial space, it's a really interesting life experience, because entrepreneurship almost becomes a mirror of looking at yourself and seeing the areas in which we fall short, but also realizing how we are in control of kind of what we're trying to accomplish. And I think about accountability as kind of a sum umbrella, if you will. Why do you feel like it's so difficult for so many people to kind of look themselves in the mirror and be accountable to their own actions? And why do you think we struggle with that so much in society today? I just kind of want to get your 2 cents on this.
I mean, first thing that comes to mind in knee-jerk reaction is just ego. We're afraid to ask for help. We're afraid to say when we don't know something or show our ineptitude. Especially, and I see this pretty frequently in talent acquisition, HR, you're a recruiter, you're being paid by your company to do that job. By raising your hand and saying, hey, we do need to bring in an expert consultant to do this, because I only know 30% of what I should know, but they know 150% of what we should know. So it's a matter of, if you have a leak in your house, you're going to call a plumber. Don't try to DIY it yourself and flood your house out. So I think foolish pride stops a lot of those things, but being able to have authentic, realistic conversations, and that's what we do with our clients. So when we do training with them, the first parts of what we do is get to know them. We do a diagnostic. We interview them, their staff, their team, their veterans, really get this litmus test on the overall organization. Then we build rapport and get to know like their fears, what keeps them up at night, what's happened in the past. So we're able to support that not only by just hearing your fears, your opinions, or whatever it's in your mind. We're extracting data and showing you guys made some strides here, made some effort. However, the results weren't there. You went to these career fairs, can't show one single applicant for it. Let's look at reallocating some of that give a fuck factor or some of your time in there and reallocate that to things that are going to work. So it's just about being objective, holding people accountable, and what gets measured gets done. What gets measured constantly gets done constantly.
One of the things you talked about in our last conversation is, which I loved, you said Buffer Springs is for us and it's by us. And I absolutely love that. What do you feel? Another thing that you said is, I like to work in outcomes. Like the people that I work with, we work in outcomes. That wasn't the outcome that we wanted. You weren't successful in whatever the venture was. What does accountability mean at Buffer Springs, and how do you keep your people accountable?
So for us, one of the big things for me, I don't want to be a hypocrite. So I'm convincing companies in some cases to hire for character and train for specific skill. Taking an untapped veteran, unproven resource like myself and watching what we can do, whether it's building a business like I'm doing now or anything else that we do or our expertise and skills. So going back on that, say the question again. I think my bad.
Yeah, I just asked, how do you keep your people accountable?
Oh, accountability. My bad. Okay. Yep. So with accountability, what we're doing is we're urging organizations to do that. We'd be hypocritical if we didn't do it ourselves. So our organization here is only being built with, for, and by veterans. These non-proven, non-traditional talent people that you're afraid to hire, those are the only people that I'm hiring here, is those non-proven people. Right now, I have somebody who is just retired from the Air Force, did supply and global logistics for the Air Force. Now she's a senior program manager holding everything together for our partners at PepsiCo in their HR compliance strategy and everything else there, because moving boxes and moving global Air Force units is a lot harder than actually just moving people and connecting people to jobs that they actually want at the end of the day. So we find these unproven skill sets or military skill sets and find a way to cross-pollinate those and translate those into civilian excellence. With veterans specifically too, getting back with accountability for us, because we're hiring veterans and our mission is to eradicate underemployment for our people. If you're not accountable to that, or you don't give a shit about your own people, we don't have a place for you to begin with. So we do a great job of vetting people out in the beginning, making sure that they have everything to be successful here. If they're not a cultural fit for us, I'll tell them, like, if they're not going to grind, I work every day at least 16 hours, and I'm not lying, but I'm not burnt out or anything. I love doing this. I have to turn my brain off, and that's where I know that I'm onto something great, finally. But we're trying to find that for them too. So if they're doing that here, we try to put them in an operational capacity where they're going to grow. But we also get them to rotate and try different things to figure out who they are. For vets, a lot of us, we joined the military when we were fresh out of high school. We didn't know who we were. We weren't even an adult yet. It's our first adult decision that we made in some cases. I joined the Marine Corps before I bought a car, like that, and that's 4 years of my life right there. So with that, though, we didn't pick our jobs or anything. So there's a lot of negative connotations or stereotypes of what people did in the military. I was a nuclear, biological, chemical warfare guy. Has nothing to do with what I'm doing now. However, the skills, the attributes, and things that I learned in that of being a trainer and an instructor and battle testing things to be in a combat scenario, we're doing with clients right now to get them to go through the training exercise and running a mock audit with them that, hey, the OFCCP is coming to visit in 30 days. I'm pretending to be the OFCCP. Let's go. Show me your numbers. Oh, shit. It's a lot real now. So we go through that battle testing and we hold our companies accountable, our veterans here accountable, and our community partners accountable. But for us, it's all about extreme ownership. If you don't own it, get out of the way. We have stuff to do here. And if you're not going to do it, you're blocking progress.
I want to start as we start kind of landing the plane here. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of paint the picture of the future of Buffer Springs and specifically kind of what the future of veteran hiring is going to look like in your utopian type of world. What are we thinking?
So for me, our future ad campaign in 5 years is just going to simply be veterans, ? Buffer Springs. You want to hire vets? You're a vet. You want to connect with veterans? I want to be the epicenter for all of that and a one-stop shop for that. Because right now, there's 47,000 organizations that I have to vet through that all look the same. Some of them are good and want to help me. Some of them are that North Korea cardboard cutout thing, and there's no substance behind that. So what we're doing right now is we have a full team vetting out that ecosystem of 47,000 people. We tier those partners of tier 1 doing great work, all the way down to tier 4s not doing so great work. We also have a category, and it's a military term it's Blue Falcon. It's a military code word, but Blue Falcon is a code name for buddy fucker. These are people that aren't doing things for our system, so we're for our people, so we're flagging those as well. So accountability is the only way that we get our mission accomplished of eradicating underemployment. So by holding our people here accountable to the mission, that we keep doing the work, we keep building, we keep strengthening and accelerating our people, that's easy to get our people behind because we're doing it for us. Getting companies behind that, going into that guy that just wanted to stack bodies, I wasn't going to be able to hold him accountable. And he was going to hold my feet to the fire of just stacking a body and not actually doing impactful work. That was going to be a toxic thing. So they were going to hold me accountable, but I could not hold them accountable. That wasn't a good fit for us. Even our community partners, we're holding them accountable. You say you help veterans, show us. If you don't, we're going to make sure the veterans don't go see you. So accountability is the only thing that makes this work. But we are developing a very complex flywheel. And if all three of those intersecting points are not empowered and accelerated, the wheel goes nowhere.
Man, I just want to say for myself and for Dante, man, Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to kind of hear the passion you have behind what you're doing, the passion behind Buffer Springs, the mission you guys are on, the things you guys are accomplishing, and the sense of accountability that you're requesting and I would say mandating from your partners is something that is truly inspiring. I want to use the last couple seconds here as an opportunity for you to pose a question for our next guest who's going to be on the podcast. Now, you don't know who this is, but this is also an innovator. This is somebody who's shaking the tree, and this is somebody who's trying to do right by his or her community. So what do you got for him?
Let's see. I think I'm going to throw out an accountability question since we're on that topic. So I'm going to ask a question of what innovative strategies have you implemented at your organization to address diversity, equity, and inclusion? The second part of that question is how have they impacted overall business performance, and do you have numbers and analytics on there? We usually focus on the first part of the question. What strategies have you implemented? Great, we all have them. We all paint our website with rainbows during LGBTQ month and everything else, but what impact has it made on your business? Where's the performance? Where's the numbers? Show me where that investment actually paid off for the company. That's my question.
I love it, man. Dante, do you want to wrap it up for us here today?
Rob, it's been an amazing conversation. I love you just like ooze this passion. And I remember the last time Keenan and I got off the call, we were just like so energized just talking to you. And so I love the mission. I want us to stay in touch in the future. And so appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. And that means you guys aren't shitty people. Like, you understand what I'm saying and everything else. So we can be partners. So in all reality, thank you guys so much for all that you do, getting the word out there, changing the narratives that are out there. If we all speak collectively and get the word out there, nothing changes. We can't keep letting veterans of yesteryear or other people or stereotypes tell who we are. The more that we get up there and talk about the fact that I'm an individual and this is what I do, like, it's important. So I appreciate and applaud the work that you guys are doing too. in this like unfiltered fashion to get out of this stuffy bullshit that we're in the DEI sector.
Well, man, you've been a huge contributor to the overall mission for us today. And once again, Rob, thanks for everything that you're doing, brother. That's a wrap on the podcast, guys. Catch you in the next one.